Hello everyone, you're on the Jeep and Jimmy YouTube channel. Alright guys, let's get right to it. Today we're working on the XJ some more. I'm going to close the door. It's actually starting to get a little bit cold out here now. It's like mid-October. So yeah, try to keep the heat in here a little bit. Like I was saying, working on the XJ some more. If you haven't seen last upload, one upload before this, you should watch that video. It explains a lot of what we're doing right now. No, really. I'll wait. Alright, you watch it? Okay, good. You're up to speed. So, we know that cylinder number 6, the connecting rod is indeed snapped. So today, we're taking out all the pistons, replacing them, and honing out the cylinders while they're out, cleaning up the block underneath, cleaning up the oil pan, and then we're going to reassemble. Now the first thing I want to do, just to clear up some workbench space, this is the cylinder head that came off of this engine. And if you can see in there, I'll take a picture with my phone, put it up on the screen, but the valves are rusted pretty badly, maybe even beyond repair. I'm sure maybe I could if I had enough time, but I have, in this crate, I have 2 cylinder heads. One from a 01 and one from a 95, so I'll put the 95 on one. They're a little bit stronger and it will mesh right up because this is a 98, so it's using the same parts, because in 2000 they changed it a little bit. So I'll get that out. That one should be good to go. I know you shouldn't, people say don't mix push rods and lifters from different engines, but you know what, it's a Jeep, it's for off-road, it'll still run. Maybe it won't run perfect, but it'll definitely still run. And if I have to replace it in the future, obviously we are capable of doing that. That being said, I will be using pistons from a donor engine. Over here I have an engine, or a block now, out of a 1995 Cherokee. It's all stripped down. I plan on rebuilding that in the future. Not the near future, but eventually in the future, I hope. So, we are going to be using these pistons, and with these same piston rings. So, the compression might not be perfect, but like I said before, the engine still should run. And this is kind of a budget thing, budget oriented. So I'm trying to spend as little money as possible to get this thing back on the road. And hopefully we can keep that going. I haven't spent any money yet. So hopefully, maybe for some of you guys that are the same way, you have just Jeep parts lying around, something breaks. Maybe you can learn from my experience. Maybe this goes terribly wrong and we fire it up and it runs like absolute shit. And hey, if something does go wrong, we didn't spend any money, so we didn't lose any money. So that's a win at the end of the day, I guess. But I think it'll work. I think we'll be alright. So yeah, let me get the workbench cleared off, then I'll show you what we're actually, the steps I'm going to take to getting the engine ready to be fixed. Alright, that's much better. I got the new, quote-unquote new, cylinder head over there on the hood of the OG XJ. So, what we got to do, first I want to get all the water cleaned up, get all that out, just so when I take out the pistons, we don't get any more water in this engine. It's had enough. It's had enough water. Do that, then we'll head underneath, we'll unbolt. There's a piece called the girdle, runs the length of the engine underneath all the bearing caps. Got to drop that. Then we can take off the bearing caps and pull the pistons out, and then from there we'll start to do our cleanup process, start honing and all that. So yeah, I'm gonna get started. Alright guys, so underneath now, the front of the Jeep's that way, that's up. So here's that girdle I was talking about, just runs the length of the engine. So that needs to come out first. I'm going to take out the sending unit and the pickup there, just so it's out of the way. Alright, so I got this freed out. I punched it out with a hammer. This is the lower end of the connecting rod that broke. It was jammed up in here, so I punched it out. But when it jammed itself in there, I guess it bent the girdle down and it got it pinched up against these studs here, so now the girdle won't drop. So I'm just going to cut it right there. And I just realized my Sawzall is not here, so I won't be able to cut that girdle just yet. But I should be able to get the the caps off so I can get the cylinders out a while. I can just turn the crank to where I can get to them, and it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to pull the cylinders out. Alright, we got all the pistons pulled out. Wasn't too hard. We have a special guest on the channel here. It's Zach. He's been here before.
I was the hero of today and brought this, and this little gem.
We're going to need that. Alright, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
So we got all the pistons, and then we have the problem child. There's the one that broke. Nice clean snap there. A few of them look like they had a little bit of a twist to them, so I'm not going to use any of them. We're just going to go with the ones that came out of the good motor. So we're going to start cleaning up the block, getting the cylinder walls honed out, and then we'll get to installing. Alright guys, so I did get the cylinder walls honed out. I'm sorry for not filming that. I wanted to make sure I got it right. This is actually my first experience honing out cylinder walls. And if I did something wrong or messed something up, I didn't want to be giving out false information. But they look pretty good. I got them oiled up on the side, so you know they're all ready to go. Now the next step, I'm going to start cleaning up these pistons. Start getting them cleaned up and ready for installation. So I'm going to get to that, and then we'll get to putting them into the block and getting it hooked up to the crank. Should be fun. Let's get to it. Well, with some part cleaner and a little bit of steel wool, we got them looking pretty good. There's one. 5 more to go. So I got all 6 cleaned up. They look pretty good, some cleaned up better than others. So next, one at a time, we're going to start installing these. So what I'm going to do is lubricate the rings with some oil. Make sure they're evenly coated with oil. And then what you want to do is put your crankshaft top dead center to the piston you're installing. So, and you can't see in there. But pretty much where the crank makes its peak at the top is where you want it when you're installing one, and then you just do it one at a time. So I'm going to get the ring compressor on, and then I'll show you guys installing it into the block. I got one installed there, as you can see, so let me take you through and show you what I do here. First, you want to take your oil and get the rings oiled up good. And you don't need to have these things like soaking in a bucket of oil before you do it. Just enough to get it lubricated. Next, you want to get your ring compressor on. So that's this guy here. Get it over and just bring it just to the bottom of the oil ring there, just so you're not doing more than you need to. And then this one in particular, you just tighten it up with a tool. Some are different. There you go. And then in there, oh, let me get that. There's an arrow pointing to the front, so you want to make sure that goes to the front, of course. And then rotate your crank towards top dead center. I forgot to do that. Looks like it just needs to come a little bit. Right about there. Get your piston set in there. And then make sure your cylinder walls are oiled as well. And then once you got it setting in there flush, get a hammer with like a rubber end or something and just lightly tap it in. If it shows any kind of resistance, take the whole thing out, back out and try again. Some might have got installed wrong or something or another. But yeah, that's pretty much how you get the piston into the block there. Now I'll go underneath and show you guys how to do the rest. And then under here, guys, all we're doing is installing the connecting rod caps. So throw a little bit of oil on the bearing there, and then just go ahead and put the cap on. Get the nuts started hand tight, and then torque them down to 33 foot-pounds for this specific application. And it's easy as that, and then we'll just put the rest in. All 6 pistons are in, as you can see. So we made some good progress today. I'm actually gonna, well, the video's not over. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm done for the day. It's been a long one. So we got all 6 pistons installed. I'd say the majority of the hard work is done. So now it's a matter of getting the oil pan back on, scraping off all the mating surfaces to get new gaskets on there, oil pan, head, and we should be ready for our first test fire. Which will be in this video, I think, if it's not long, or if it's not too long. So, yeah, see you guys in the morning. Alright everybody, it's the next day. I worked ahead a little bit. I got the oil pan and gasket on, all bolted up, good to go. So we are done on the bottom end. I already got the head surface cleaned there, ready for the gasket. Same thing with the cylinder head itself. It's ready for the gasket, all cleaned up. So that way we can just get right to it, putting this thing back together, getting it fired up. So yeah, let's get going. Since everything's cleaned up, we can go right for the head gasket. Get that put on right away. It is labeled top right there, so this is the top side. And we'll just get that placed on there. Now let's put the head on. I'm gonna see if I can like lay it right here and then climb up in there. This thing is heavy. That's in there. Woo! Alright, so now we're going to get the head bolts in. I already got them started. Get them hand tight, and then we're going to start torquing them down. But one thing, the front driver's side head bolt right here needs to be wrapped in Teflon tape. It goes in one of the cooling jackets, so that'll keep any water from getting anywhere it's not supposed to be. So yeah, I'll get these hand tight and show you how to torque it. And you're going to torque it a total of 3 times, starting I think at like 22 foot-pounds and then working your way up to the final torque spec. All right, so the first time around is going to be 22 foot-pounds, so let's do that. Second time around is going to be 45 foot-pounds. Final torque spec is 110 foot-pounds, with the exception of this front corner one that I was talking about earlier that goes in the cooling jacket. That one you're only going to tighten to 100 foot-pounds, and this is a final torque spec, so this will be it. There you have it, guys, all torqued, ready to go. Next step, we're going to put our push rods in. Just make sure they're seated in their lifter, and just go right on down the line. Let me get some better lighting. There we go. Alright, push rods are in. Next, time to get those rockers on top. Let's do that. Alright, there we go. The torque spec on the rockers, by the way, is 19 foot-pounds. I already got them torqued. So, let's go ahead and get our valve cover gasket on there, which is one of these over here. There it is. Boom. Get that on there, and then we'll get the valve cover on top. Valve cover is on, bolts are tightened, ready to go. Next, intake and exhaust manifold right here. Got it ready to go. New gasket, ready to put on there. There's these little dowels sticking out on either side, and the gasket just slips right over those, so it kind of holds it in place like that. Alright, the exhaust header is on. Just got the 2 bolts started on either side. Now we'll get the intake manifold slid in there and get her all bolted up. Alright, now that the manifold's on there, we do have to tighten it down. There is a torque spec, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get my torque wrench on a lot of them, so I'm not going to worry about that. But there is also a torque pattern, so there is a sequence. You have to tighten the bolts, which I will still do just to do it as right as possible, I guess. So let's do that. That's it for bolting stuff up. Intake and exhaust manifolds are both on. Now it's all just getting the wiring hooked back up, plugging everything in, plugging in all the vacuums, and we can start this thing up. So I'm going to fast track that. I'm not even going to film it, nothing. Let's just get right to starting this thing up. Let's get right to the startup, because this video is probably getting a little bit long by this point. So let's do it. It is time. I got all the fluids topped off, got an oil filter on there, topped off the oil, power steering fluid, put some new coolant in. So time once and for all to get this thing started. So I'm going to get the camera set up and we'll get it fired up. Alright guys, we got the Jeep running. That's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.